We got ourselves a juicy one right now. We back with my boy Casual Geographic. He's a classic YouTuber, a real one. We got some real juicy shit today. Some educational. There ain't gonna be nothing I'm asking of y'all in my college class. I don't give a fuck if y'all hitting your vape, y'all drinking your cerveceria. Just take your notes, refer to them notes on the test. Y'all gonna pass. It's easy. This is the island too strange to belong on Earth by the professor, Casual Geographic, my boy. Give him a subscribe, give him a tip, give him a comment, go on his Twitch. I don't know if that boy has a tip, but go on his Patreon. Give him some money, bruh. He really deserves this shit. The island too strange to belong on the Earth. I've already been to this island, so I already know how strange it is and what it's like. I ain't gonna be surprised in this video. I don't be your professor if I ain't know. Let's get into it.
If Narnia and the Twilight Zone had a one-night stand with enough hallucinogens to make the cast of Euphoria flinch, you'd get this island. What happens when you combine snow-seasoned beaches, sky-molesting reaches, air so clean you'd swear it bleaches, a hippie Satanist wet dream jungle, and animals not even Dr. Seuss on Adderall could come up with? You'd get a place with enough worlds for a Mario side-scroller, all packed into a...
Just a real quick thing, any of y'all taking Adderall is down near the same chemical as meth. It only got one fucking atom or molecule or fucking element different. Just one. Just one. If you take an Adderall, that's gonna give you schizophrenia. That's gonna do all that mess shit. You don't be putting your kids on Adderall, y'all.
To an island the size of West Virginia. Tasmania is like the lesser-known DLC spin-off of Australia. It was originally connected to Australia as part of a polyamorous situation known as Gondwana, until they divorced and Tasmania moved out on its own. But not without attachment issues, since it's only about 150 miles off the mainland. It's fitting you can't spell Taz without mania, because one day in Australia's draft folder will have you seriously reevaluating your sanity. Everything's just backwards. The seasons are flipped,
like your hat.
December to late February,
I love you,
and
bro.
winter being June to September. And if you want to fall without tripping, you'll have to March 1st. And because of the rain shadow effect in the many mountains of Tasmania, the west half of the island gets 5 times the rain the east does, making the landscape more bipolar than the animal it's known for. Speak of the devil, we'll get to them, and that wombat is definitely not sleeping. But that's exactly the kind of mind to expect from a land where the toilets flush backwards. In fact, we can start right there. Your introduction to how weird Tasmania can get starts the day you lay cheek on a seat without checking first. That's an easy way to get your taint tickled by a frog in your toilet. It happens so often that it's one of the things Australians just accept as a fact of life. It's like a fairy tale frog trying to be a prince but got confused and went for the wrong lips, but it honestly could be worse. Just think about being the frog. Imagine thinking you're at a water park but then looking up to an hole dropping bombs like it's Hiroshima. And while getting your bathing suit area caressed by Kermit would surely put a dent in your mental, the frog's technically not dangerous and definitely not the worst thing you can find in the bathroom. Imagine dropping chow in the dunny just to see the highly venomous Tasmanian tiger snake just under some TP. And yes, that's actually happened. How about a family of also venomous jack jumper ants in your kitchen? Now, their sting is a jihad.
And y'all live in Australia, my bad, bro. Kudo.
In which case they'll tattoo your name on a headstone. It's like I always say, the odds might be low, but they're not zero. In Tasmania, you can have frogs causing clogs, but how about a disaster in your plaster? Do me a favor real quick, close your eyes. Go ahead, do it. Now imagine after a long, stressful day on your feet, you finally get into bed,
18 hours.
Nestle yourself under the covers.
The
room is the perfect temperature. It's nice and dark, and slowly drift off into that familiar, inviting world of... Congrats, you've just had the experience every Australian has at one point. The day you find out you're roommates with...
Man, fuck you!
Possum, the devil's squishmallow. Their personality trait involves breaking into houses and living...
What is that?
All while serving the soundtrack of Satan getting his prostate punched. And they're a protected species, so they're above the law, which is how they end up in Looney Tunes levels of nonsense. There was one time a brushtail broke into and trashed some woman's office, but in his defense, he's sorry. This possum broke into a bakery, and I guess
he be eating them conchas.
Other than half-digested pastries coming out of his mouth. In their defense, they are cute, and their vision might be poor, but they'll still peek at you. They're living proof that out of fight or spite, life in Tasmania will find a way. Take these rocks for example. The rocks, called dolerite, were formed by magma getting pushed up through the crust, kind of like a pimple that can extend up to 300 meters above the sea, or just under 1,000 feet. You might think nothing could get any use out
To
of
the
Earth's
Earth,
acne,
that
but
ain't
it's
a big
actually
pimple
popular
to it.
rest stop for fur seals, where they can take a break from hunting without also getting
Them
packed
seals
into a
like the
lunchbox by a
bacteria.
great white. There's about 50 of these
That's gonna
seal
be a
service
test.
areas across the
Gonna
island,
be
with over
question.
2,000 seals taking advantage. And if you look further out, you'll see they're not the only ones. Humpback whales will travel from their freezing feeding grounds to warmer waters to have calves, and back again. And we used to think they just fasted the entire time for 6 months. But it turns out, humpbacks will use the waters off Tasmania like truckers at a diner as a place to refuel on the way home. The sights don't end once you get on the beach either. If you're lucky, you might catch a leatherback freight train of a turtle heading back to sea. If you're a little less lucky, you'll run into a leopard seal that thought it was too good for directions. You know, it's not until you see these things on land that you realize just how bad penguins got it. It's rare, but every once in a while the rubber assault sub wanders from Antarctica and ends up in Australia's understudy. You might think they're cute, but let me
What
remind
the
you,
fuck
they
is
have a
that? I don't
confirmed
think that
body.
bitch is
Besides,
cute.
there's another seal I think you'd
That
rock
bitch is
with even
scary,
more.
bruh.
This is Neil the
Look
seal.
at her
For
teeth.
real. He's a southern elephant seal that's honestly been bullying the small town of Dunalley and everyone.
Look at that carrot.
Because Neil is the law and the landlord. Elephant seals are notorious for their intrinsic disdain for
Oh,
infrastructure.
that shit is
Neil is
big.
no different. As far as he's concerned, it's his town. Y'all just renting it. All that adds up to a plus-size pinniped with an attitude problem. An attitude everyone just puts up with because isn't that just the most Australian thing you could do? And apparently Neil's still out here being a menace, so if you live in Tasmania, you might just get a visit from him. Just make sure you have a sick day in the chamber in case a 1,300-pound sausage decides to park in front of your car. And because Tasmania, you can go from a diet Jabba the Hutt on your lawn to the world's smallest penguin.
Why
Fairy
didn't she
penguins
just go
are
on the
most
other
of time at
door?
sea, but once a year they'll return to land to shack up, get a nice burrow, and eventually start a family. The penguin
Pinche
dream.
torta.
It's adorable until they choose to shack up under your house and you find out what a pint-sized penguin vow renewal sounds like. I owe you an apology. But since Australia is nothing but a compromise with nature, they get the same diplomatic immunity as Neil. There's even places where you can watch hordes of travel-sized blue penguins coming home after a long day at sea. And if you're really lucky, you'll see what happens when he comes home to his wife getting her plumbing fixed by someone else. Pro tip though, they don't like bright lights, but they're chill around red. I don't really know why, but them's the rules. Speaking of rules, you've probably heard of island gigantism, where animals become the supersized version of themselves if they've been marooned long enough. Tasmania is no exception. The difference is it led to the biggest tree in the world. This is eucalyptus.
Hold on, what do you put on top
The
of this?
difference is it led to the biggest tree
One of.
in the world.
My bad, y'all.
This is Eucalyptus regnans. It's one of the few trees with a pyrokink, since they can only reproduce by releasing seeds from pods after they've caught on fire. But because of the rain shadow effect and one side of the island getting way more rain than the other, it also means way less fires. So they kind of
Bro, remove this
just
cursor.
keep growing. Not only can they grow taller than the Statue of Liberty at over 300 feet, many of these trees are well over hundreds of years old since that was the last big fire. Some of the oldest can be 500. That's half a millennium of waiting to spread their seed. Talk about getting pushed to the edge. That's how you get these prehistoric, almost alien-looking Jurassic playgrounds dominating the western half of Tasmania. These not only make it one of the biggest temperate rainforests in the world, but Tasmania is one of the few places on Earth with a negative carbon footprint. And I believe it. Just looking at this, I could tell that O2 hit
My
different.
bad.
But also
You
don't
put a
forget,
fire
the same
song. I
island
wasn't
that's just over
listening.
150 miles from Australia is also a little over 1,500 miles from the frostbitten loins of the land, Antarctica. So technically it should be no surprise they can also get a good amount of snow, even at the beaches. And maybe it's just me, y'all can let me know, but
Is that a dog?
I had no idea kangaroos could be
Why
around
they put the
this
dog
much
in the snow
I
like
did
that?
not think that was something they had to deal with. But yeah, the forests of Tasmania are definitely something out of a fever dream. Stevie Wonder could walk through it and see that. Mostly because you don't even need to see. The soundtrack of the Apple Isle is trippy enough. Like the kookaburra, the bird who carried the careers of sound engineers by being the stock voice of the jungle. And if you've ever watched Flipper or that one time SpongeBob tested the FCC, both of those are just a sped up, cracked out call of the kookaburra.
I met SpongeBob before.
Also, they're not even native to Tasmania, but were brought in to violate snakes. So were lyrebirds, except they were brought in for their own good. And lyrebirds are able to mimic anything around them, and not just other birds.
Damn!
There was a lyrebird named Chook who lived in the Adelaide Zoo while a new exhibit was being built. So guess what he did?
Pinche hocicones like me.
And here you have a lyrebird imitating a child. And while cosplaying as a chainsaw is cool, the gaslight potential is too outrageous to not be acknowledged. There's other birds too. You probably know this as a carnage happy hell tweety and a literal black air force. But Tasmanian magpies don't swoop, and neither I nor science have any idea why. Also, I don't know what I thought a goth canary sounded like, but it certainly wasn't this. I'm as confused
That was pretty
as
musical.
you.
They
If you
fire.
look up into the trees, you might find the eye-catching Tasmanian rosella, or the tawny frogmouth, which is quite literally the opposite. Truly a muppet of a bird, but it's the muppet Tasmania deserves. Then you have the nightjar. A little known fact about
chill.
them is they actually have an even smaller Siamese twin of a bird right by where their beak's supposed to be. And now you'll
Not
never
in
be able to
Tasmania,
unsee
in
it. But
Southeast
that's not even close to the
Africa,
weirdest
y'all.
animal in Tasmania. That would have to
This
be,
one,
yep, we've entered the platypus
Australia.
portion of the video. It would take a whole nother video to describe all the ways this identity crisis is a middle finger to the natural order, so here are some highlights. They have no nipples.
Yo,
so they
that's a
sweat milk.
platypus.
They have no teeth, so they chew with rocks. They have no stomach, it goes straight down their gullet. They swim blind and deaf.
How they
Use
eat it with no
electrical impulses
stomach?
like sharks to find prey, because of course they do. And they have one all-purpose hole that was apparently so
Yo, Perry the
fascinating their entire
platypus
family
going
reunion
off.
got named after it. The only animal in their league of eccentricity, yeah, weird was just too bland.
What does that mean,
Is the
eccentricity?
echidna. It's also a stomachless
My bad,
egg-laying
y'all. I need to look up what does that mean for a second. Eccentricity. What does that mean? The quality of being eccentric. Deviation of curve. What does a set? Okay, look, I'm not giving up. What does eccentric mean? Like how you be? Unconventional of their behavior of a thing not placed centrally. Okay. Oh, they're strange. Bro, why are you trying to use these big ass words for that stupid shit?
Milk-sweating waterland, a word for them, is the echidna. It's also a stomachless, egg-laying, milk-sweating, water-loving monotreme. They're a lot like the Greek guard dog Cerberus, but instead of 3 heads, they have 4. Instead of on their shoulder, theirs is south of the border. Echidnas have a fire hydrant with 4 nozzles, and only 2 can come to a conclusion at a time. Speaking of erupting heads, I'm really about to blow your mind. So you probably know the Disney show Phineas and Ferb with character Perry the Platypus, created by Dan Povenmire.
Oh, my
The
boy.
concept for a teal-tinted monotreme in 1993. And obviously, platypus aren't green in nature, or at least not the live ones. Except in late 2020, scientists discovered
What's
the
a
walking custard
platypus?
factory glows under UV light. Take a wild guess what color. Yeah, this goes right.
What is color?
Their quadrupede cousins glow too. In fact, we found out that a lot, if not most, Australian mammals show out under ultraviolet. And yeah, if anyone has a reason other than that's just Australia, I would love to hear it. And if you thought it couldn't get weirder, 1, you're not giving Tasmania nearly enough credit, and 2, there's an animal here that catches bodies and uses light to do it. This underground light show is a cave full of glowworms. They're not worms, but the larvae of a type of gnat that uses bioluminescence to lure insects in, and a thread hanging from the cave ceiling to trap them. Straight out of the page of the anglerfish playbook. Once a victim flies too close to the sun, the larva pulls them up to revoke their existence. Sea sparkles are a lot less dramatic, and these are caused by bioluminescent plankton that
Bro, what is that?
light up when disturbed. I actually went to a bioluminescent bay.
How they make the wave in the
Even though
wave?
Swimming in a microscopic mosh pit
Hey.
is definitely a trippy ride everyone should experience at least once. But it has nothing on Aurora Australis. Now, I could give you the scientific explanation that the lights come from charged particles from the sun hitting atoms in the atmosphere, getting them more riled up than a fan getting an athlete's sweat sleeve, and releasing energy in the form of light. But it's honestly easier to say, of course an island stormed off its gourd would have a sky on shrooms. Which is actually close to the other thing
That's
Tasmania is
crazy how they
famous
see
for.
the entire
Tasmania is the
Earth.
world's leading
That's
producer of
opium
building
plants.
blocks for opiates and supplies half of Earth's ingredients for morphine, fentanyl, and everything else in the average episode of Euphoria. In 2009, mysterious crop circles appearing in fields had farmers all
That was from
forms of
kangaroos
fun
jumping.
until they realized it was just wallabies downing poppy plants, getting more cooked than the ops of Sweeney Todd, and hopping around in circles until eventually passing out. There were
I would never believe that theory, Casual Geographic, bruh. They were not jumping in a fucking pattern being that fucked up, bruh. They were not doing that.
Respected members of the scientific community that said it was aliens. Whole time it was an economy-sized kangaroo eating enough product to have Horton hearing a who, what, and a how. Cockatoos get lit off it too, but at least with them,
I would
they're
never
only feeding
believe
after
that.
the seeds and not just getting higher than their wings can take them. But wallabies walling out is a problem for one very crucial reason. Tasmania is also the roadkill capital of the world. It's said that 32 auto-assisted census subtractions occur every hour. And since wombats are walking cinder blocks with a rear end of retribution, they have the potential to drive a literal wedge between your car and the road. Leading the world in furry four-wheeled flatlines is bad for them, but great for one animal. This wombat's in a nightmare, but he's not dreaming, because Tasmanian devils will live up to their name by feeding on carcasses from the inside out, to the point where they'll have a food coma while bowels deep in the dead and decaying. And at the size of a small dog, devils have the most damaging bite relative to body size of any mammal. Clearly, brushtails took voice coaching from them, since they literally got their name from settlers touching down on Tasmania and hearing what a devil dinner party sounds like. But they're pretty well known, unlike their close cousin, the quoll. I don't know how they fly under the radar, because where devils are mostly scavengers, quolls mostly eat what they kill. And considering there have been over 100 cases of quolls feeding on human remains, 111 to be exact, that devil title looking real fraudulent. Quolls also have an alternate black morph, proving that any animal with an Oreo colorway lives on demon timing. The Tasmanian devil's biggest op is their own kind. They're so bite happy that it's a big reason for the spread of devil-faced tumor disease. And considering biting's basically foreplay, it's like an STD that's done an absolute number on their population. And
the way that they fight in is cute. Look at his arms.
The thylacine been called the Tasmanian tiger or the Tasmanian wolf, but it's actually the other dominant predatory marsupial and one of the few times an animal got gaslit into extinction. Bounties were put on their heads, and not only were people saying thylacines were murking 50,000 sheep a year in a place that didn't have more than 40k max, later evidence says that their jaws might have been too weak to even murk a sheep. To be fair, if that's true, nature set them up. And in 1936, the last known thylacine named Benjamin died in the Hobart Zoo, almost fittingly enough after being locked out of his sleeping area, and the bipolar Tasman weather finished him off.
That's fucked
But from everything we've learned about Tasmania, you knew they weren't gonna let that slide. Since 2005, devil diehards have been creating insurance populations of those without the disease, and even established an inaugural class of imps on the
That's right, perro.
There's also been efforts to create a vaccine to save the mascot of Tassie, and as of 2023, it's officially been approved for testing. And after a 3,000-year devil absence, Tasmanian devils were born on the Australian mainland after 44 of them were drafted in 2011 to a breeding program for the Aussie Arc Devil Project, which
está buena viviendo estos perros.
We got dogs working as wingmen for the devils by smelling when a female's ready to mate, date, and procreate so they can get her set up with a male. Since then, about 500 joeys have joined the devil database, and they might not be the only ones making a comeback. There's a good number of people that believe that the thylacine is still out there, and with a lot of the Tasman wilderness being straight up inaccessible to most people, maybe the tiger of Tasmania is still out there in the shadows. And honestly, staying low-key is probably their best move. That's really Tasmania as a whole. How such a medley of mind-f***ery and generational balderdash can be so underrated is beyond me. But if I've learned anything about Tasmanians, that's exactly how they want it. But that's gonna do it for this video. That was actually inspired by this animation by